So I recognize a lot of people. Some people recognize me. I've been building crypto mining assets for many years. Most people who know me know I started back in the days with Bitfury, when Bitfury came into North America and specifically came into Canada. I built a lot of Bitcoin mining in Alberta before starting DMG. And I think Bitfury can probably claim the name of sort of really pushing the idea of containerized mining. We built hundreds of containers in Alberta. A lot of people have taken those containers and improved upon them over the years, and there's some really great containers out there. And I'm starting to see there's some really good container designs for immersion as well. So people are moving from air-cooled to immersion. Oh, I do have slides. Cool. I don't really want to do a big presentation. I only actually want to talk about 2 or 3 things from the DMG point of view about what's going on. So I'm going to skip to the beginning, since that seems to be the end. Maybe not. You don't want me to go through all these slides, trust me. But I'm going to show a little bit for those of you that don't know DMG about our company. So there you go. We are an actual public company. We're listed on the Toronto Venture Exchange and the US OTC and in Frankfurt. So our lawyers make us put a forward-looking statement up every time I talk, so sorry about that. So we're about 25, 30 employees. Our company is really split into 2 parts, and I call it Core and Core Plus. We just used to call it DMG, but we really started moving more into software in the last year or so. So Core is just our core business. We're Bitcoin miners. We've been doing it for a long time, and we quite enjoy it, and we love doing this. We like, Bitcoin miners to me are really just power people that are making power more valuable. And I think we're doing a great job at it. And I think the industry itself over the last few years is really starting to grow, and it's starting to get a bit of the status that it deserves for a lot of the hard work that people put into growing the Bitcoin network. DMG itself is in Vancouver. We have our main facility up in Christadena Lake. Some people out here have been up there and have seen it. I only see Russell here. He went up there. He calls it Planet Hoth, but it's cold there in the winter. He went in February. So we, in general, are very open about our data center. If somebody wants to go and see it, I don't think I've ever said no to anybody. We allow people to go and visit it. We actually have somebody visiting on Friday. Unfortunately, they're not a Bitcoin miner or somebody that wants to be a hosting client. They're actually an auditor. As we're a public company, we got an auditor going up there to take a look at everything, but they're going to learn more about Bitcoin when they're up there. I created this slide about a year ago. I was sitting down, and this is before the halvening and everything. Really, I guess maybe a bit more than a year ago, the halvening and what's happened in Bitcoin price. This is sort of crypto winter time. And I was really trying to think, where's DMG going? What do we want to do? We've got some software. We've got Bitcoin mining. What does the landscape look like? And so I kind of looked at it from I have power, I have equipment, I'm running equipment as best I can. I make a Bitcoin. I got a Bitcoin. I sell it if I need the cash, or I stick it on my balance sheet and try and make the assets of my company look really good for my shareholders. And then there's all this other stuff on top of it. You see all these exchanges and custody wallets and all these other guys doing stuff that Bitcoin miners don't really interact with. And I thought, well, we know so much. We're at the very basis of starting and creating a Bitcoin up to the coming out of the pool. Maybe we should be doing more. And so we had this company that we bought back in 2018 called Blockseer out of Silicon Valley, and it was really just tracking transactions, sort of like Chainalysis. We had all this data that we were gathering, and it was sort of data was over here in this world of transactions, and then there was me with this big site making Bitcoins, and they weren't really being brought together at all. And so we kind of looked around and said, well, what do we need to do, looking at sort of the way we see the Bitcoin ecosystem, to kind of bring all this together into one roof. And we came up with this idea of being vertically integrated, and we were pretty close to being vertically integrated. We're just missing some parts where we could say, from, turning the power on to transacting a Bitcoin between fiat currency. We're not that far away from doing all of that. So I kind of plugged the pieces in there and said, well, what am I missing? Well, I'm missing a pool. I don't have a pool. There's a lot of pools out there, but I don't have a pool that does certain things. And going back to the auditor that's in our facility on Friday, there's a lot of things in pools that North American companies, especially public companies, or companies with a governance level, really need in a pool that for whatever reason, they're just not really in most pools. And a lot of pools are getting better at it, but there's this idea that you need to have SOC 2 compliance, you need to have auditability, you need to reliability of the information in the pool, all these kind of things that if you're not a public company, it doesn't really matter as long as you trust your pool operator. But if you are a public company, you run into this issue where your shareholders, through your auditor, need to be assured that the revenue you're recognizing is correct. And so there's this whole idea that just because a pool says you're getting this many shares and this much revenue, doesn't mean they're right unless they can prove it. And there's no motivation for a pool to prove if they're right or wrong. There's nothing you can do to them. And so it created a real problem for public companies. And so we got involved in this from an audit point of view, where we actually audited pool data against our own private nodes to see whether or not the pool was actually paying out properly to the users that were public companies. And it's horrible, because if you're a public company, then you have DMG or somebody else like us going through all of your pool data, all your miners, all your electrical bills, trying to figure out if the revenue you did is correct. And so it's intrusive, and nobody wants another Bitcoin miner looking at all their stuff. And so we thought, if the pool can just do this, then we can get rid of all this extra cost and hassle, and it can be all done right at the pool level with proper reports that are all compliant, that auditors will accept. And that was the idea, let's get in the pool business. We have so much information, we understand how all this stuff works. We just need to apply a few things to make it easier for North American companies, especially public companies, in a pool. And so that's what we did, and we created the Block Zero Pool. Many people know that we licensed that pool to Marathon as Marapool. Many people know the debate about OFAC. I had about an hour and a half debate about OFAC last night, and I think I might end up having it again today. We'll see. And there's pluses and minuses to it, so it's a really interesting debate to have. But from the pool, then we got into custody. So we just announced a deal where we've invested into Brain, which is a custody provider in Canada. And so now we've got mining operations software through Mine Manager. We have our pools. We'll talk about Terrapool as well. And then we have custody, and now we're getting into exchanges. So we've announced that we're moving into the exchange business as well, so we can custody coins and start trading them. And so we have all of this kind of stuff that we put together. So our whole goal was to sort of drive up from an electron, making a Bitcoin, and then a Bitcoin. I didn't want to stop at one transaction. I didn't want to stop the company to say, I can make a Bitcoin, look at me, there it is on my balance sheet, or I sold it because I have to pay some wages to people. I wanted to keep interacting with that Bitcoin after that. And I think that, eventually, I hope some other Bitcoin miners will start doing this as well, because we have such great knowledge of how everything works. I think if we just kind of keep pushing our way up that value chain, there's a lot more that we can discover and do and come up with in the Bitcoin ecosystem. And so we've really been pushing ourselves into that, higher in that ecosystem, into the transactional side. We want to keep transacting with Bitcoin and getting fees and continuing to grow the business that way and come up with products that we think the market needs or clients need. So we're really focused in on the software side. And just, you can go so far on the infrastructure, but I think you really need to get into the software to really keep growing yourself as a Bitcoin company. So we call, as you saw, Core Plus. I think everybody's in a Bitcoin mine, but that's just a picture of mine. If you haven't, GPUs on one side, ASIC miners on the other. This is just, normally I do this presentation to investors. Again, it's on our website. You can see, anybody can see this. Just our facility, for those that have not been there. It's that big building, 30,000 square foot building there. We fit about 45 megawatts into that building. The rest goes out in the back in containers. Just where we are. We built the substation ourselves privately. We wanted to be power independent, so we built an 85 megawatt substation with the ability to twin it. I thought I would never actually twin a substation, but with what's going on right now, maybe I will. We'll see. It's designed where the main unit sub there is so that we can actually put a second one in, and so we could pull 170 megawatts out of there. And just, we did this substation in 10 months from design to construction completion, which is, I was told by BC Hydro, and it was a record, and anybody in the power industry knows that trying to build a substation with a utility is painful. There's a utility in this room right here, right now, shaking his head going, yeah, it's very painful. And I think a lot of miners here know the difficulties of getting this done quickly and properly. Just, we took an old finger joint plant, cleaned it all out, racked it all up, and just put a lot of megawatts in there. And we did a lot of work on the engineering of our pod system of hot and cold. We have no assist fans just to get the distances right, so we get enough cool air coming in. We use water walls just to cool it down in the summer for a few weeks. But basically that's it. We just use the fans on the machines. It runs everything, exhausts hot out, and it runs really well. There's a few people here that actually host in my facility. So if you find one of them, they can tell you if it's any good for uptime and temperature and all that kind of stuff. Just another picture. One thing that we announced that we're actively doing and we've made some progress on is the move to immersion. Even though we're in Canada, we don't really have that much for hot weather compared to places like Texas that everybody talks about immersion in Texas. We're still moving towards it because of the ROI. The price of fluids come down. The engineering of tanks is actually not that difficult. The cost to put it in is marginal once you already have infrastructure in there. So we did a power study. We hired a company just to see if we were like insane and just pretending that this was great or if it was actually good. We wanted a bit of an independence on our board, and we ran a batch of, I think they were T17s for a few months in air, and then we took the same ones, put them in, same firmware, everything, put them into immersion, and we saved 18% running the same hash rate of power. And we were shocked. We were guessing like 9, 10%. So it was double what we thought. And we didn't actually do it. Somebody else did it for us. So we were pretty happy with those results. So we are moving forward with immersion. We are looking at just retrofitting all of our stuff and then moving from air-cooled containers to immersion-cooled, wherever it's possible to do that. So I won't talk too much about it. I love talking about immersion, and there's a lot of people here that like it as well. So happy to talk to anybody about immersion cooling. I think the industry will move there more and more over the next few years as the costs are coming down and the capital is coming down to do this. A few years ago, the first immersion I did was at Bitfury in Gildani. It was extremely expensive and very difficult. It was two-phase, and I don't wish that upon anybody. Single-phase is much easier and much less cost. And then on the software, I'll run through it quickly. This is sort of where we've been spending a lot of our time. I kind of break Blockseer, which is our software company out of the US, into two parts: safety and security, and regulatory and compliance. And so safety and security is our Explorer, the wallets that we're now launching now that we've done our investment into Brain. And then regulatory and compliance is, again, Wallet Score, which is an AML product, same as Chainalysis has and CipherTrace and others. But we also have our Mine Manager, which I'm sure everybody has some type of Mine Manager watching their equipment. But the Mine Manager works well to create pool software. And then we have, the first pool, which we white labeled to Terrapool, and the second pool is Terrapool, which we have our stand over there to talk about Terrapool. And then we have a new project called Petra that's coming out that's going to help us with optimizing transactions through the blockchain. Just some pictures. Some people like to see this when I talk to investors. What does it look like? There's that word OFAC. So some people it's a bad word. Some people it's not. Like I say, we had a long debate. I think it's just your point of view on how you see the industry growing. Mine Manager, that's just one of the heat maps. It tells you the heat of every server there. It tells you the hash rate efficiency, if it's 100%, plus or minus. It does a lot of stuff. It rescripts all the miners. It gives out work tickets if something's broken and not working properly. Blockseer Explorer, just tracking Bitcoins, used forever by the FBI and different organizations. Again, no different than the other companies out there that do this. Wallet Score, same idea. And then just into the pools. I was actually just talking to Russell about, no, it wasn't Russell, somebody else, about this slide. And what's going on in China and why mines are being shut down. I actually don't know why. I don't know the rules and regulations. But this slide, we made this one, almost a year ago as well. So it's getting a bit dated. But it was just kind of showing like the nodes and the hash rate and where the hash rate is and the nodes are like people actually transacting and doing transactions, whereas the hash rate is like where the pools basically are, where you're sending your workload. And this you have this kind of balance where North America, Europe seems to have a lot of node action, but you have a lot of hash rate over in Asia, parts of Russia and Kazakhstan. And so you have this idea like people are busy making hash rate over here, but people are busy using Bitcoin over there. And the idea was to try and balance that a bit together. And that was one of the reasons why Marathon wanted to get in the pool business, is they wanted to try and keep more of that hash rate where people are actually using Bitcoin more. And so it's a good little discussion slide when we talk about what's going on with a lot of movement and investment into Bitcoin into North America, compared to other parts of the world. and I don't need to really talk about it. This is what I was sort of talking about public companies and pools. There's, in that transparency one, is probably what public companies really need to focus in on, was this idea of, independently audited pool, KYC on users. There already is sort of a KYC on users in general if you're a hoster. And then sort of this idea of this OFAC clean blocks. You can or cannot use it, it's up to you. But it's something that is an issue that's going to be debated, I think, more in the coming years. And then over in corporate governance, SOC 2 compliance. This is a big thing for pools and for public companies. Again, private companies, maybe it's not as big of an issue. But this was sort of the impetus of why DMG, through Blockseer, got into the business of pools. Is we were trying to solve some problems for the larger public companies that have auditors that just don't understand this business. And even if they did understand it completely, they have to go through a certain procedure of independence and checking your revenue and how you're managing all your assets for your shareholders. I maybe don't want to get into this because I think I'm going to have a debate on this one a little bit later, but why did Marathon do Marapool? There's a lot of reasons why they did it, and I went through a lot of them as being a public company. Terrapool is one of the reasons we're here. We haven't launched Terrapool. It's a partnership with Argo and DMG and the Crypto Climate Accord. Argo and DMG were the first two companies to sign the Crypto Climate Accord as signatories, which we actually created that grouping called the signatory, where we actually sign a document saying what we're trying to do in the world of renewable energy. For DMG, it was a pretty easy one to sign since we sit up in Canada in a province that's pretty much 100% hydroelectric. So we didn't have a lot of the challenges that some people where they're in different infrastructure. You sort of are dealt the infrastructure that was built before you got there. So one of the ideas of Terrapool is we're trying to help people understand that infrastructure, understand their power mix, and find how they can get into renewable energy. I believe that over time, the bulk of the world will be renewable energy. It's just the lowest cost point of energy there is. When you look at it, where does an aluminum plant go? It goes in a hydro dam. Why does it go there? Because it's the lowest cost energy. That's just the way it works. Bitcoin miners are no different. We're big power users. We're going to always try and find that lowest cost of energy, and in some way, shape, or form, it's going to be renewable. And so I think that our whole industry will just sort of gravitate to it, and I think we're kind of custodians of that future gravitation, and through the money we invest and how we do business towards renewable. And with Terrapool, it's not really just about we're green kind of miners. It's more about helping the mining industry show all those people out there that are saying, Bitcoin's dirty, it's coal, it's bad, we shouldn't support Bitcoin. It's a way of saying, hey, there are people out there that are trying and will continue to try and reduce the amount of carbon in Bitcoin mining. So that was the goal of the pool. It's just that there's a whole bunch of us out there that are doing the right thing or trying to do the right thing. Or maybe we started an area that's got a lot of carbon in the energy mix, but you don't have that choice a lot of the time when you start an operation. You just need to have some help to try and figure out how to clean that up and what you can invest your money in the future to make a better choice now that you're a bit more aware of this debate and this issue. And so, like I say, for Terrapool, if you're not on renewable energy, it doesn't mean you can't join. It just means that we're going to try and work with you and figure out how we can get you to more renewables in your energy mix. And so I urge you to talk to me about Terrapool if you have any interest. We're beta testing it right now. We did the same thing before Marapool went up. We beta tested it, get it going, work out any bugs. And with Terrapool, we're doing the same thing. We have a lot of support from Crypto Climate Accord and Energy Web. So we're putting some really good standards in there for ensuring that we can help people with their energy. And that's the bulk of what I wanted to say. Just some updates about the company. As I said, we put $1 million, we haven't said who it is yet, into an exchange that gives us exchange abilities. We just put $3 million into Brain to get our wallets going, so we'll have full custody for coins for our clients. Our Petra is ahead of schedule. We started up the Crypto Climate Accord with Argo as signatories. We've got a couple other miners that have joined as signatories as well, so we're excited about having them on the pool. And yeah, that's DMG and Terrapool, and I don't know if this is a Q&A, but if people want to ask me questions, and I don't know, they didn't tell me how long I had to talk, so I just thought I'd talk for a while. There's a lot of hot topics that I've heard talked over yesterday and the day before, so I'm here to get involved in some of them, and if there's any kind of questions, I'm happy to.
Are you doing Immersion on ASICs and GPUs or just?
Right now, we're doing just ASICs. We do have a lot of GPUs in our facility. We have around 800 or 900 rigs, but we haven't started any of the R&D on the GPUs yet.
What is the power price you need for running your facilities cost efficient?
Power price is an interesting debate. I mean, everybody believes the lower cost, the better, and I 100% agree. But when you look at what it costs to create a Bitcoin and you look at what you can sell it for, I don't know how relevant power price is right now. I think it is going to be relevant around the next halvening as we kind of watch the system of the difficulty, and as we close the next halvening, power price becomes really important. So if you're mining at 10 cents a kilowatt, if you're mining at 2 cents a kilowatt, you're still making a Bitcoin for $8,000 or $10,000 or whatever that is, and you're still going to clear $30,000 when you sell it. So for us, you know, we have the choice of wholesale power. We own our own substation, or taking it from the utility. Right now, we like to take it from the utility just because we have guaranteed firm power. When we take it on wholesale, we have to, you know, we could be curtailed. It's not firm power. So we're taking right now on utility power and just pay the utility tariff. But the price of power on wholesale in Canada, when we get it delivered, it's around $25 a megawatt. So US. Oh, okay, sorry. I'm supposed to repeat the questions. So what do I do to which? To secure? So in case of a major outage, what do DMG do to secure power? So we're lucky that right now, so if I took wholesale power, there's nothing I could do. I would just be curtailed if there's a major outage on the network. When I take it from a utility, I have firm power, so basically they have to deliver the power to me. The only reason that they could curtail me when I'm on firm is if there's some kind of emergency where there's a government intervention saying they're taking power. And then I have to agree that as part of connecting to the grid operator for the province of BC. But if just something goes out somewhere when I have firm power, they cannot curtail me. So that's one of the reasons why we've chosen to pay a little bit more right now for firm power on a utility basis versus non-firm power on wholesale. Well, this is good. Nobody's going to ask me about Taproot or anything like that. That's great. I think the pool guys are coming up a little bit later. They'll talk about that. Any other questions? All right. Well, I'm looking forward to, if I haven't met you and talked to you, come up and talk to me. David's here somewhere too. He came with me as well from DMG. I think he's got his hat on, and I don't see him right now. But come talk to us. We try to man the booth a little bit, but I guess there's not a lot of people going to booths. But pick up a hat, pick up a brochure if you're interested, and yeah, I'm looking forward to talking to all of you. And if you're going golfing, hopefully I'll see you out golfing. Thank you.